Good morning and welcome to historic Launch Complex 39A. My name is Benji Reed. I'm the Senior Director of Human Spaceflight Programs here at SpaceX, and it's an honor to be here and have all of you join us today and this marvelous crew of Inspiration4. First, let me set the stage just a little bit and tell you about where we are. As I mentioned, we're at Launch Complex 39A here at NASA's Kennedy Space Flight Center. This is a launch pad that has seen decades of historic work, whether it's Saturn V's and Apollo spacecraft or the space shuttle or SpaceX's own Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy rockets with Dragons or satellites on top. It's quite an honor to be here, and kind of gives me goosebumps and is exciting. You may not see where we are now, but if we look out towards the pad right now where the crew is getting to look, this is where they will be launching from for their mission. And in fact, this is the same pad, of course, where we were able to launch Bob and Doug last year, the first two astronauts, American astronauts, to launch from the United States on a U.S. spacecraft in almost 10 years since the space shuttle was retired. And since that time, in the last 6 months, we have launched 4 more astronauts to the space station who are there right now. And in just a short period of time on Earth Day, coming up here in the next month, April, we will be launching 4 more crew members on the Crew 2 mission. They'll go up, they'll spend a few days, and the Crew 1 crew will come home. And it's pretty exciting if you look behind me, because in fact that booster right here on my left is the booster that launched the Crew 1 crew. And it's going to be the booster that launches the Crew 2 crew as well, because Crew 2 will be launching on a flight-proven Falcon as well as a flight-proven Dragon. Dragon Resilience will be flying our Inspiration4 crew here. And if you look to my right, another testament to the exciting historic nature of what we're doing here is what we call our fleet leader. It's a Falcon 9 that has launched 9 times, the most of any Falcon 9s launched and returned. So how does all of this happen? A very large part of this is our partnership with NASA. NASA's been a key player and a key partner in everything that we do. And of course, the Commercial Crew Program itself is an innovative and really revolutionary concept by NASA to partner with commercial space entities like ourselves to be able to provide space transportation services and really open up the space economy in low Earth orbit and beyond. And that's what allowed us to do the mission last year with Bob and Doug, and continuing to do more missions with NASA astronauts. And really what leads us to today to being able to launch the first all-commercial astronaut mission to orbit. Launching humans, launching crew is fundamentally what SpaceX is all about. We were founded on the notion of making life multi-planetary. We fundamentally think that a life that's with humans out exploring the stars is more exciting than a life if we're not. And this mission here is going to bring us one step closer to exactly that. Launching people is a sacred honor. We take it seriously, and we want to make sure that we do it safely and keep everybody safe. You'll notice today in our COVID environment that we are socially distanced. We're wearing masks. We take them off when we're speaking and put them back on. And actually a number of us are already vaccinated. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to the gentleman on my left, Jared Isaacman. Jared is not only an adventurer and a great entrepreneur, he's the CEO and founder of Shift4 Systems, but I can say from personal experience he's just a really great person, and it makes me very happy to know that he'll be commanding our next mission.
Thanks so much, Benji. Look, I just want to echo your comments on how much appreciation we have for NASA, but also to the visionaries and the innovators at SpaceX who've made this moment possible. Thank you for that. It's really an honor and a lifelong dream to be here, at the epicenter of really awe-inspiring history. Kennedy Space Center and Cape Canaveral Space Force Station are home to the birthplace of human spaceflight, with programs like Mercury and Gemini. Missions, like Pioneer and Voyager and Hubble and New Horizon were all launched from here and have helped us understand really how little we know about the worlds beyond our own. Launch Complex 39A specifically is really hallowed ground, and it's produced historic achievements under iconic program names like Apollo and Skylab and Space Shuttle. And there are many heroes that have made these history-making programs possible, not just the astronauts, but the scientists, the engineers, the researchers, and the countless other visionaries. And not all of them really had their story told the way we're fortunate to tell our story today. Each of these pioneers that came before us really deserve our deepest respect, our admiration, and our thanks. Gathered in front of the launch pad that really continues to serve as the gateway to the stars is a vivid reminder of all the effort that it took to get to this point. This year marks the 60th anniversary of the first human spaceflight. And since then, we've had about 555 others have really made that journey. These are legends that are known to all of us, like, Alan Shepard and John Glenn and Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, Jim Lovell, Sally Ride, and so many others. And thanks to them and all the heroes that have really supported them, a new era of spaceflight has finally arrived. And they really were just the proud beginning. Because as Benji mentioned, last year, Bob and Doug became SpaceX's first NASA astronauts to fly on Dragon, which has really paved the way for Inspiration4. As the first all-civilian mission to space, we are taking that first step towards fulfilling, the SpaceX vision that Benji just talked about, which is that the world is a more fundamentally interesting place when everyone can go and journey among the stars. Our goal is to inspire the world in the same way that the heroes of NASA, and now joined by the heroes of really all the SpaceX people around us, inspire all of us. This is why, on behalf of the entire Inspiration4 crew and the team that's supporting us, I'm proud to dedicate our mission to them, to the tens of thousands of space heroes, known and unknown, who have come before us, and the thousands that are now supporting us today. Our goal is to have a world, we owe them all a really immense debt of gratitude. Inspiration4 will never really forget that we truly stand on the shoulders of giants, and we're deeply grateful. From the beginning, Inspiration4 is set out to inspire the world as to what is possible in space, but also what we can accomplish here on Earth. We set out to achieve that through the crew selection process and how they will all represent our mission pillars, but also through a cause that I know we all feel really deeply passionate about in defeating childhood cancer, and the organization that we're supporting in that effort, which is St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. I want to take a moment to thank all the scientists, the researchers, the healthcare providers, and all those that support them. You're truly in the fight every day, the same as the families who are going through these hardships. And you also have our deepest respect, appreciation, and unwavering support as you work towards achieving such an important goal. So I believe that history will record Inspiration4 as a pivotal moment in space exploration, as another important step towards humanity's next great rendezvous with destiny out in space. I believe that for a number of reasons, but most important because of the people you're about to meet. We promised a crew representing some of the best of humanitarian qualities, exemplifying our mission ideals of leadership, hope, prosperity, and generosity. And I'm pleased to report that we've accomplished that goal. And with that, let me introduce you to the rest of the crew of Inspiration4. The crew members that are here with us today share Hayley's passion and dedication towards adventure, exploration, and inspiring others. They're not only great representatives of the pillars of prosperity and generosity, but they have their own unique connections and background to space, as well as a genuine interest in the well-being of others. First, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Sian Proctor, our crew member who represents the mission pillar of prosperity. Dr. Proctor grew up with a front row seat to space as her father worked as a NASA contractor. She is here because her passion for space exploration shaped her career. Her Space to Inspire artwork is featured in postcards and posters. She took her Space to Inspire idea to the Shift4 shop platform as part of the contest we held for the Prosperity seat, and she blew us away. And I know she blew away all the judges that were part of the independent panel with her submission. She's also a fellow pilot, an experienced educator, and a dedicated explorer. She will serve as Inspiration4's mission pilot. Dr. Proctor.
Thank you, Jared. And thank you to everyone out there that's watching and listening today. It is such an honor to be part of the Inspiration4 crew and to go on this journey. And I like to think that space has been in my DNA. I was born on Guam, and the reason why is because my father worked at the NASA tracking station during the Apollo missions. And I grew up with all of this space memorabilia, such as Neil Armstrong's autograph to my father, thanking him for all his help for Apollo 11. And so when I think about sitting here and what we're going to be doing with Inspiration4, I can't help but to think about my father's legacy, and as Jared mentioned, my desire to share my love of art and poetry through my Shift4 shop, which is my space to inspire, and how I can get others around the world to just use their unique space to inspire those within their reach and beyond. And as I go on this journey, I just am so thankful and appreciative to be able to share my inspiration and my goal of prosperity through creativity with all of you. Thank you, Jared.
Thank you, Sian. I'm also pleased to announce Chris Sembroski, who will represent the mission pillar of generosity. Chris is here because he donated to the St. Jude Children's Research Hospital sweepstakes and was selected from almost 72,000 entries submitted during the month of February. I'm proud to share that over the past 2 months, we've helped drive a significant amount of donation to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital to accelerate the research and maybe someday end childhood cancer here. And this fundraising effort is really far from over. We'll be continuing throughout the year. Chris works in the aerospace industry and is actually a veteran of the U.S. Air Force. He will serve as our mission specialist while helping to encourage others to support the St. Jude fundraising goals of our mission. Chris?
Thanks, Jared. Good morning, everyone. It's truly an honor, and it's exciting to be here, sitting here in the view of Pad 39A, and to be a part of this Inspiration4 crew. And as Jared mentioned, I work in the aerospace industry, but I've been tackling problems here on Earth and helping find answers inside of data that no one had the answers to yet. So I've been taking on challenges for a long time, and I've been inspired to pursue those passions from a young age, from launching rockets with my dad in elementary school to having late night astronomy sessions on the rooftop of my high school. That drive to be a part of space and rocketry has always been there. And I was a space camp counselor here in Titusville, and I was actually able to help tour my campers around facilities around this complex here at Kennedy Space Center in an effort to inspire them and to pursue their passions in science and technology, using space as that driving force behind that. And now it's an incredible opportunity that I have to take that message to a wider audience, to inspire more people to share their talents and gifts with the world and show kindness to one another and be generous with each other. And as I go up into space, that's the message I hope to bring back. And I really hope that once I am up there and supporting our crew as a mission specialist, that I am able to experience what it's like to look back down at Earth and see our beautiful blue ball sitting there with no lines, no walls, and realize what incredible opportunities we have if we just continue to show kindness to one another and reach out and be generous with our talents. And I am extremely excited to be part of the Inspiration4 crew. And Jared, thank you again for this incredible opportunity.
Thanks, Chris. So the world has had an opportunity to get to know Hayley Arceneaux a little bit and her Inspiration4 story. But for those that aren't familiar, Hayley battled through cancer as a child and was treated at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. She's now a physician assistant working at St. Jude, and she's helping other children face the same challenges that she conquered some time ago. Hayley represents the mission pillar of hope, and she's also our medical officer. Hayley?
Thank you, Jared. It's a pleasure to be here. So since I joined the crew about a month ago, I've had so many opportunities to share my story and to inspire people in ways I never imagined possible. I've heard from many families who are struggling with their own cancer journeys. And I've gotten to share my story with kids who are going through the exact same thing that I went through 19 years ago. And I tell them to never lose hope. And it's an incredible honor to be part of this Inspiration4 mission. I'm so excited about the amazing work that we're going to be able to do. And while we have a really fun adventure ahead of us, I know that we're going to do some incredible work back here on Earth. So thank you, Jared.
Thanks, Hayley. This is such a talented and inspiring group of individuals, and I really feel so fortunate to be able to lead them on this historic mission. So now that you've met the Inspiration4 crew, let's talk about what we plan to do on our mission. So starting tomorrow, the entire crew will train for the very first time together. We'll be going through centrifuge training, and we're going to simulate nominal and off-nominal launch and re-entry profiles in a centrifuge. So it's going to be very cool. Then over the next 6 months, we're going to receive training by SpaceX in the launch vehicle, the spacecraft. We're going to have orbital mechanics academics, operating in microgravity, high gravity, zero gravity, and other forms of stress testing. We'll go through emergency preparedness training, spacesuit and spacecraft ingress and egress exercises, as well as partial and full mission simulations, and more in preparation for our launch day just later this year. So I can confirm we are targeting no earlier than September 15th for the launch of Inspiration4's mission right here from historic Launch Complex 39A on a flight-proven Falcon 9 and Dragon spacecraft. In fact, the Dragon spacecraft that we're going to be flying on later this year is the same one that's currently attached to the International Space Station supporting the Crew 1 mission known as Resilience. Once Dragon returns the Crew 1 astronauts back to Earth, the SpaceX team is going to inspect and refurbish the spacecraft ahead of its next flight on our mission, again, later this year. The duration of the mission is going to be approximately 3 days, and we're targeting an apogee of approximately 540 kilometers, which is flying really further than any human space mission since the last servicing of the Hubble. SpaceX is also developing something new in good SpaceX form to impress us all, which is a new glass window similar to the cupola that's on the International Space Station in place of the forward hatch and docking adapter, since our mission will not be docking at the International Space Station. And I think some of you will be able to see a rendering of this engineering marvel probably on your screens right now. So the orbital altitude that we're going to reach of north of 540 kilometers is actually symbolic, especially when you think about all of the missions that are going to follow ours, including the return to the moon and then on to Mars. Additionally, we have reached out to a number of organizations to identify scientific research and other payload opportunities that our crew can support while we're on orbit. And I look forward to sharing some of those details with you a little bit later on. And with that, I'd like to hand it back over to Benji at SpaceX for some Q&A.
Absolutely. Wonderful to have you all here. It is an inspiration. We're going to use that word a lot on this mission, and it is. It's just awesome to see you all here. And as I mentioned before, just knowing Jared, he's a great person, and I can see that the team that we have here is a group of great people. So without further ado, let's open it up for Q&A.
If you would like to ask a question, please press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. We will pause for just a moment to compile the Q&A roster. Your first question comes from the line of Jeff Faust from Space News. Your line is open.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I wanted to ask either Jared or Benji a little bit more details on why you chose this specific mission profile, this altitude, the 3-day duration, and also the September 15th date, how that factored into all the planning for this mission. Thanks.
So I'm sure both Benji and I can contribute to the question, because it was a super collaborative effort, between SpaceX and Inspiration4. I think the idea of keeping a 51.6 degree inclination is to preserve all of the abort and recovery options that already that infrastructure that already exists to support other International Space Station missions. I think the 3-day duration is a good balance between the capabilities of the Dragon spacecraft and just how much time you want to spend in a pretty relatively small, space for a couple days together. And then in terms of the altitude, I think that's probably the most special part of the mission. Picking 540 kilometers, it should send a message, right? It should say that we've been executing really well on International Space Station missions for some time now, but we're ready to go back. We're ready to go back to the moon, and we're ready to go beyond the moon to Mars. So I think kind of extending out a little bit farther than where we've been for some time right now is a good step in the right direction.
I'll add to that just for a moment. One part of Jeff's question there was the date, and I think it's important to note that one of our primary needs and goals is to service the space station, ensure that there is a constant crew up there doing all the great science that they do. So our next launch coming up, and a mission that in my mind we're already in, is Crew 2 mission, and of course Crew 1 mission is there. And following right on the heels, coming up in the fall, will be the Crew 3 mission. So as we look at that as being our priority that we need to set, we work closely with Jared to talk about dates and readiness for this crew. This crew, we believe the training will be able to be ready by September, as well as the Dragon that will be returning home from Crew 1. The refurbishment of that Dragon will be ready in time. So it works out very well with our manifest. And it's an exciting thing too, right? Because we're starting to move into that era of human space flight where we need to balance our commercial and our government manifest, just like we do with satellite missions, and as we've done before with cargo missions to the space station on Dragon. Now we have commercial missions to start balancing in that as well.
Your next question comes from the line of Eric Berger from ARS Technica. Your line is open.
Hi, good morning, and thanks for doing this. A couple of questions. First of all, for Benji, it looks like you've got about a 5-month turnaround, or potentially even less, on this Crew Dragon Resilience. Is that kind of at the limit of what SpaceX can do in terms of refurbishment, or do you hope in the future to be able to go faster? And then for Jared, I'm curious how you see this mission slotting into the long arc of space tourism. We've always had fits and starts with Soyuz orbital missions and things like that, but what kind of message would you like to send to the millions of people who would love to go into space and who would be alongside the two people, Sian and Chris, who joined your crew today? Thanks.
So in terms of the refurbishment time, we have an awesome team out here, down here on Cape Canaveral Air Force Station and Kennedy Space Center, who do refurbishment all the time, right? We've been flying a lot of boosters like the one behind me and the one on the other side as well. And they know how to do refurbishment. We've also been refurbishing a number of Dragons. Dragon has flown a number of times to station and reflown at least 9 times. And so we understand that, and we've been working on the development even of Dragon 2, which is the crew and new cargo variant, was designed from the beginning for rapid reflight. So we feel very good about the time frame that we're working in.
Thank you. And to answer the second part of the question, I think we're trying to deliver an awful lot of messages with this mission. It is the first time that a global superpower hasn't sent people up into orbital space. And I think that should send a message of all the things to come, right? We know someday in the future, 50, 100 years from now, you're going to have a lunar base at some point. You're going to probably have some sort of a Martian colony. But you have to start somewhere. And I think when this mission is complete, people are going to look at it and say it was the first time everyday people could go to space. And that's important, right? Because when you think about it, you do have a better chance of getting struck by lightning than becoming a NASA astronaut. And this has to eventually open up to more people. I think it'll come away with a number of other firsts. You're going to have the youngest American going to space. You're going to have the first astronaut with a prosthesis going to space, which should pose the question after this mission of what else can we do? How else can we further open up space for more people that it wasn't previously accessible to? And I think you're going to have a heck of a fundraising effort that's going to raise an awful lot of money to accomplish an awful lot of good here on Earth, so we earn the right to go out and explore among the stars. And that should be a model, I think, for other great endeavors in the future as well. So I hope that we're going to be able to take a lot of things away from this mission.
next question comes from the line of Marcia Dunn from the Associated Press. Your line is open.
Yes, hi. I hope you can hear me. Benji, I have a question. Do you envision the SpaceX training in the Dragon on the rocket to be just like what the NASA astronauts do, or are you going to tamp this down, scale it down for the general public, so to speak? I know you got 2 pilots on this crew, but how intensive do you expect it to be? And Jared, do you want it as intensive as if this were a NASA crew? Thank you.
Flying this crew safely, Marcia, as you know, is our number one goal, and bringing them home safely always. So training is part and parcel for that. So we'll be giving them all the training that they need in order to enjoy themselves and get the most out of the mission, as well as fly safely and take care of any emergencies if they were to arise. But I'll really give the rest of it to Jared to talk about training.
Well, as Benji knows, because we've certainly talked about this an awful lot, like we're not cutting any corners here on this one. We absolutely, hope for the day where, you've got, fishing buddies going up into space. Like that's what this is all about, is to make, space, more affordable and therefore more accessible to everyone. But, you got to get the first mission right for all the others to follow. So, we're not taking any shortcuts with any of the training that's going along with this. Like, we want to earn this position. And I know everyone on the crew shares that as well. Like, we're all lucky and fortunate to be here, but we have to earn it every step of the way. And I fully expect at the time of launch, having looked already at what the training curriculum, looks like on the road ahead, that we'll all be like fully capable and ready to execute on the mission as commercial astronauts.
Your next question comes from the line of Irene Klutz from Aviation Week. Your line is open.
Thank you. Good morning and congratulations. 2 questions for Benji. Will the installation of the glass window in place of the forward hatch and docking adapter require any permissions or any oversight by NASA? And for Jared, how far down in the vetting process did you need to go to come up with your crew? Were these was everybody the first one picked, or were there some people that for one reason or another were not able to be selected? Thanks.
All right, in terms of the cupola, first of all, it's just awesome. It's the coolest thing ever. And there's a lot of neat firsts about this mission. I mean, above all, and as Jared keeps saying, and I think it's incredibly important to recognize, is that these are everyday people that get to go to space. And that gives me goosebumps even right now talking about it. But then the fact that we can give everyday people the coolest window that's ever flown, that's awesome. So, and in terms of, the engineering and the safety, absolutely utmost. We've done all the engineering work. We're continuing to go through all the analysis and testing and qualification to ensure everything's safe, and that it doesn't preclude any use of this spacecraft for other missions. And NASA has deep insight to everything we do for crew missions, from our factory through our launch vehicle, the Falcon, all the way through Dragon, all of our operations, everything we do, NASA has deep insight, and they're great partners. And they have fleet-wide insight too, which means they get to see what we're doing and how we're analyzing this cool window. So we'll make sure they're part of the plan and go from there.
Yeah, and really good question about the crew selection process. So right from the start, I intentionally made sure I was very distanced from that process. That's why we had a third-party administrator who handles sweepstakes to specifically oversee the generosity crew member selection process, and why we had 4 independent judges handle the prosperity crew selection process. What I do know is that you had a lot of good third parties and independent people involved in the process who followed the rules and ultimately delivered us like the best crew I could possibly ask for Inspiration4.
Your next question comes from the line of Chelsea Code from Space.com. Your line is open.
Hi, thanks so much. ChelseaGoSpace.com. My question is for Dr. Proctor. I'm curious, as a multiple times over analog astronaut, how that experience has prepared you for this mission, and also as a scientist, but also as an artist, what you hope to bring back to Earth after completing this mission.
Great questions, Chelsea. Being an analog astronaut, I feel, has prepared me for this moment because I've lived in multiple Moon and Mars simulations. I actually lived in the high seas habitat for 4 months, and that mission was funded by NASA to investigate food strategies for long duration space flight. And so when it comes to crew cohesion and crew conflict and how to use your strengths to get past those things, I have a lot of experience with that. And I hope to bring some of that knowledge with me to my crewmates and our mission to space. And as a scientist turned artist, I feel like I'm in the perfect position to meld both of those two things together and just share this message of hope and inspiration to the world. I can't think of anything better, like Chris said, being up in the Dragon capsule and with the cupola and looking back at Earth and being able to see all the geologic features and being able to describe what I'm seeing, the landforms and the ocean and our thin atmosphere, and thinking about the overview effect and just all of those things coming together, and then wrapping not only my scientific knowledge, but also this art and this poetry and this way of sending this message of hope and inspiration to everyone. And so that's one of my goals, is to use my space to inspire those within my reach and beyond.
Your next question comes from the line of Robert Perlman from Collect Space. Your line is open.
Thank you. Possibly for Jared or for anyone who wants to take it. When I think back to, or trying to find a parallel to other types of activities like this, when you think about non-career explorers going off and doing extreme travel, you associate with, like, if they climb Mount Everest, they have an experienced Sherpa with them. If they dive to Challenger Deep, they have a submarine designer who's done it multiple times. If there was a fifth seat, would you want an experienced astronaut on board as your guide? And without that, do you want to have, or have you appointed a former astronaut or even current astronaut as your crew's mentor for preparing on the ground?
So I can start that off, and I mean, certainly welcome the input to anyone from the crew. I mean, when we were putting together Inspiration4, I mean, we could have done that, right from the start, and reached out to, former astronauts, or collaborated with NASA on some astronauts. But that wasn't what we were trying to achieve with this mission. We were trying to, send a message that everyday people can now go and explore among the stars. But that doesn't mean we're going up unprepared. To your question, we've all now had the opportunity to speak to several current and former NASA astronauts, and those conversations don't end today. They're going to continue all the way up through launch, and we certainly hope to learn from a lot of their experiences. We're also going to get really prepared for this trip. You don't go up on Everest right after just a hike in the backyard. You build your way to it. You do a lot of training climbs. You build up that experience and confidence to take on something like that. It will be no different really with our mission. We're going to be training constantly, just as I talked about earlier, so that we're well prepared for this mission.
And I will add on to that I feel so fortunate that former NASA administrator and astronaut General Charlie Bolden was one of the people who endorsed my video on Twitter and has already reached out to congratulate me and to share his wisdom with us and the crew. I also have my good friend, former astronaut Scott Parzynski, who has also reached out and said, if there's anything that he can share with us, that he will. And so being able to have astronauts that have inspired me, and I've been able to become friends with them because I was that close to becoming a NASA astronaut myself. I was a finalist in the 2009 NASA selection process. And I feel so fortunate that, again, that's something that I can bring to the crew before we launch.
I think that we'll have time for maybe just 2 more questions.
next question comes from the line of Mary Liz Bender from Cosmic Perspective. Your line is open.
Thank you so much. Dr. Sian Proctor, I am so emotional and excited for you. She's a dear friend of mine, everybody, and she deserves this seat so much. I just want to say, Sian, I can't wait to talk to you personally, but can you please just tell me right now what that moment was like when you got that call? And Hayley and Christopher, I would love to hear from you all as well if you can. Thank you.
Mary Liz, I got to tell you and everybody who's watching, it was the best moment. I like to do the analogy of Harry Potter when he finds out that he's going to be a wizard and he's like, I can't be a wizard. and just that kind of shock and awe and the realization that it's setting in, that this is real, that instead of that no call, I got the yes. And it's that life-changing yes moment, something that I have wanted my entire life. And I'm so thankful and so happy to be here. And I feel so fortunate that I'm going to space with these people around me. And so it was amazing. I loved it.
Sure. So when I found out just 3 weeks ago that I was going to space, getting on a Zoom call with Jared and the mission director Kid, it was just a moment where I had no idea this is exactly what they wanted to talk to me about. I still thought I was part of a large pool of candidates that they were doing some pre-verification to, weed out folks that you may or may not want, and that was not the case at all. And the fact was that they had picked my name, or my name was actually it was my friend whose name was picked, but he couldn't go for personal reasons and gave them my name. And I had entered the contest as well, but it was just this feeling like, okay, we're going to the next step where I'm now going to go through an interview process. But no, Jared was there, and Kid was there, and my friend was there who I hadn't seen or spoken to for several months, and really good to see him there. But it was this moment of, oh, I'm going to space. You picked me. Wow. Cool. Wow. I mean, it was a moment of shock. You didn't have any great reaction from me there. They haven't seen me react until like a few days later when we started going through some initial training and taking tours at SpaceX. And now it's just all the emotion and excitement's coming out. You have those, intense moments where some of the things that you've only seen or on TV or from videos or from movies to see behind the scenes, having those opportunities to see them in person, those were just some incredible, overwhelming moments that we've gotten to experience together over the last couple of days that really bring this all to life and makes it feel so real, and yet it's still so surreal. Having this opportunity with these guys to share that moment of inspiration with the world, to share that generosity that's been afforded to me and bring that message to everybody else, I really can't describe it any better than just wow.
Mary Liz, thank you for the question. I think my perspective of finding out was a little bit different because I hadn't even heard of Inspiration4 at the time. It was when Inspiration4 was still a secret. And I work for St. Jude, and St. Jude said they had something to talk to me about. And they called me and they told me about Inspiration4 and how it was Jared's idea to use this first all-civilian mission to space for good and to benefit St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And then they asked if I wanted to go with them. And immediately I said yes. And I remember getting off the phone and my hands were shaking. It was just so exhilarating. This is definitely not something I ever imagined would happen, but I think that's what it makes it so fun for me. And I'm incredibly fortunate to be part of this really great team.
Your final question comes from the line of Alan Boyle from GeekWire. Your line is open.
Thank you. I wanted to follow up with Chris. I know that you're based in the Seattle area in Everett, and what is this going to do for your day job? Are you going to continue to be working, or are you going to be a full-time astronaut trainee starting today?
Right. Well, first and foremost, my full-time day job is to be, the father to my kids and a husband to my wife, and that's a responsibility I take first and foremost as my priority. And then I do have that full-time day job, and that it's going to be a balancing act. And I do have a great team. I am fortunate enough, though, to have an awesome supervisor and company that I'm working for that has flexible time and schedules, and they understand people have lives outside of work. And I just can't think of any greater opportunity to take that extra time than to be part of this crew. And being that ambassador, not just for Inspiration4, but bring that inspiration back to my company and kind of share that message with them. I think it's going to be a challenge, no doubt. Balancing everything is a challenge, even as all parents know, we've all got things we have to take care of. But I am more than willing to give forth the effort, and as Jared mentioned earlier, to earn this spot throughout the next several months as we prepare for our first ever all-civilian space flight.
Appreciate all the great questions, and I think just an opportunity to close out, I just want to express again, how fortunate I feel to have such an amazing crew. Kind of been saying it all along since we announced the Inspiration4 mission that the stars have continued to align for us every step of the way, and have continued to do so here with our crew. We've said it many times, but our mission, it's right in the name of Inspiration4, to deliver a powerful and inspiring message to people, not just about all the cool stuff that you can do out in space, but what we can accomplish here on Earth. And one of the means we wanted to deliver that inspiring message was through our crew selection process. To have people that can deliver a really powerful and inspiring message in their own right. And I know there's a lot of people that are out there and may never want to be astronauts someday, and may not be overly interested in rockets, but we'll look at Hayley and Dr. Proctor and Chris, and wind up coming away with something really powerful, whether it's hope and overcoming adversity to grow up and live your dreams, or with Dr. Proctor, never giving up because your dreams could be right around the corner, or Chris with the spirit of generosity to help others pay it forward. I'm just, again, super fortunate to have you all in this crew now. And in about 6 months from now, right, we're gonna be lucky enough to be looking down at a pretty spectacular view of the Earth, a view that only about 500 or so other people have done. It should be a constant reminder to us of all the things and all the good we still need to try and accomplish here on Earth. So with that, thank everybody again for being here with us today and learning about Inspiration4.